There are moments in history when a single city stands between two worlds, not because of its size, not because of its wealth, but because whoever controls it can reshape the future of civilizations. For more than 11 centuries, Constantinople had stood exactly where Europe met Asia, guarding the narrow Bosporus Strait like an unbreakable gate. It had survived Persian kings, Arab caliphs, Bulgarian emperors, Russian raiders, and countless ambitious rulers who believed its legendary walls could finally be overcome. Every one of them had failed. To many people across Europe, Constantinople seemed eternal. Its walls had become legends. Its churches inspired pilgrims from thousands of miles away. Its markets connected continents. Its emperors still claimed to rule the Roman Empire, even though nearly 1,000 years had passed since Rome itself had fallen. But history has a cruel habit. Sometimes, the strongest fortress survives countless enemies only to meet the one opponent perfectly suited to destroy it. By the middle of the 15th century, Constantinople no longer resembled the dazzling metropolis that had once dominated the medieval world. The city still possessed breathtaking churches, magnificent palaces, and walls unlike anything Europe had ever seen. Yet behind those walls, the empire that had once stretched across 3 continents had almost disappeared. Entire provinces had been lost. Ancient trade routes had shifted. The imperial treasury stood nearly empty. The population had declined dramatically. Entire neighborhoods that had once echoed with merchants, craftsmen, and scholars now contained abandoned houses slowly being reclaimed by nature. Gardens and fields appeared where crowded streets had once stood. Travelers who visited the city described a strange contrast, a capital filled with magnificent monuments but lacking the people who had once brought them to life. The Byzantine Empire had become an empire mostly in name. Beyond the walls, however, another power was rising with extraordinary speed. For generations, Turkish warriors had expanded steadily across Anatolia and the Balkans. What had begun as a small frontier principality had transformed into one of the most disciplined military powers of the age. This was the Ottoman Empire. Unlike many kingdoms that rose quickly before collapsing into internal conflict, the Ottomans possessed something even more dangerous. They possessed momentum. Each victory strengthened their economy. Each conquest expanded their armies. Each new province provided more soldiers, more taxes, and greater confidence. By the early 15th century, Ottoman territory surrounded Constantinople from almost every direction. The Byzantine capital stood like an isolated island inside an ocean of Ottoman land. The empire had not yet fallen, but it had already been surrounded. Even so, the city continued to survive. Its legendary walls discouraged attack. Its strategic importance encouraged diplomacy. European rulers still viewed Constantinople as a valuable buffer between themselves and the growing Ottoman state. Although assistance was often delayed or limited, many believed the city would somehow continue enduring, just as it always had. Then, in 1451, everything changed. An unexpected young ruler inherited the Ottoman throne. His name was Mehmed. He was only 19 years old. Many foreign observers underestimated him immediately. Some believed he lacked experience. Others assumed older advisors would control him. Several European rulers even celebrated the accession of such a young sultan, convinced that the Ottoman Empire would become distracted by internal politics. They could not have been more mistaken. Behind his calm appearance stood one of history's most determined rulers. From childhood, Mehmed had been educated not merely as a prince but as a future conqueror. He studied military strategy, mathematics, geography, administration, and languages with remarkable discipline. Contemporary accounts describe a young man fascinated by the achievements of Alexander the Great, Julius Caesar, and other legendary conquerors. But among all the cities of history, one fascinated him above every other: Constantinople. For centuries, Muslim rulers had dreamed of capturing the city. Ancient traditions spoke of a great commander who would one day conquer Constantinople, earning everlasting glory. Generation after generation had attempted to fulfill that vision. None had succeeded. Mehmed intended to become the first. Unlike rulers driven purely by ambition, he understood exactly why Constantinople mattered. As long as the Byzantines controlled the Bosporus, they remained capable of disrupting communication between Ottoman territories in Europe and Asia. Every military campaign required careful movement across the narrow strait. Every political crisis risked interference from a city sitting directly at the empire's crossroads. Leaving Constantinople unconquered meant leaving a permanent weakness at the heart of Ottoman power. To Mehmed, this was unacceptable. The city had to fall. Not eventually, soon. He wasted almost no time preparing. Rather than rushing into battle, Mehmed began by strengthening the foundations of his future campaign. He expanded his army, improved logistics, gathered experienced commanders, and ensured that resources flowed steadily toward his military plans. But one project immediately attracted the attention of spies and diplomats across Europe. A massive fortress was rising on the European side of the Bosporus. Known today as Rumeli Hisari, it was built directly opposite another Ottoman fortress on the Asian shore. Together, the two strongholds allowed the Ottomans to control nearly every ship attempting to sail through the strait. Construction advanced with astonishing speed. Thousands of laborers worked day and night. Stone arrived continuously. Engineers raced against time. Within only a few months, the enormous fortress stood complete, its towers dominating the narrow waterway below. Its purpose was obvious. Any vessel refusing Ottoman inspection could now be destroyed before reaching Constantinople. The message to the Byzantine emperor could not have been clearer. The noose was tightening. Inside Constantinople, Emperor Constantine XI understood the danger immediately. Unlike some of his predecessors, he refused to underestimate the young sultan. Reports arriving from scouts painted an alarming picture. Ottoman forces continued growing stronger. Supplies accumulated across nearby provinces. Diplomats failed to reduce rising tensions. Every sign pointed toward one conclusion: war was approaching. Constantine XI faced an almost impossible challenge. His empire possessed glorious history but limited resources. The city's population had fallen to perhaps 50,000 people. Its treasury could barely support daily administration. Its army was painfully small. Despite ruling the last remnants of the Roman Empire, the emperor simply lacked the manpower needed to confront the Ottomans in open battle. Instead, he placed his faith where generations of Byzantine rulers had placed theirs before him: the walls of Constantinople. For nearly 1,000 years, they had protected the city against enemies far stronger than the defenders themselves. If they could hold once more, perhaps Europe would finally send help. Perhaps the Ottomans would abandon the siege. Perhaps history would repeat itself. But this time, history was about to face something it had never encountered before: a weapon capable of changing warfare forever. If the walls of Constantinople had a weakness, no army had ever truly found it. For nearly 1,000 years, the Theodosian Walls had humiliated some of history's greatest commanders. Siege towers had burned before them. Battering rams had splintered against them. Scaling ladders had been pushed back time and time again. Even when attackers managed to breach one section, they often found another wall waiting behind it. The defenses were not simply strong, they had become legendary. Generations of rulers concluded that taking Constantinople by force was nearly impossible. Many abandoned their campaigns before they even began, believing starvation or diplomacy offered better chances than direct assault. But warfare was changing. The age of swords and catapults was slowly giving way to an age of gunpowder. Across Europe and the Middle East, primitive cannons had begun appearing on battlefields. Most were unreliable, slow to reload, and wildly inaccurate. Their psychological impact often exceeded their actual military value. Yet every new invention improves with time. And sometimes one improvement changes history forever. Around this time, a gifted engineer named Orban was searching for a ruler willing to finance an extraordinary project. Little is known about his early life, but contemporary accounts describe him as a master founder capable of casting enormous bronze cannons unlike anything the world had previously seen. Ironically, his first destination was Constantinople. Urban approached Emperor Constantine XI and offered his services. He claimed he could build weapons powerful enough to defend the city, or perhaps even destroy any wall standing before them. The emperor listened carefully. The proposal sounded promising. But there was one problem: money. The Byzantine treasury was nearly exhausted. Maintaining the city's defenses already strained imperial finances. Paying for experimental superweapons lay far beyond what the empire could afford. Constantine reluctantly declined. Unable to find support inside Constantinople, Urban left the city and traveled to the Ottoman court. There, he found exactly what he needed: a young sultan with limitless ambition. When Urban explained his ideas to Mehmed II, the ruler reportedly asked a simple question: could such a cannon destroy the walls of Constantinople? Urban's answer was equally direct. If properly built, it could destroy walls no fortress had ever considered vulnerable. That was all Mehmed needed to hear. The engineer received generous funding, abundant materials, and thousands of skilled workers. Soon, one of history's most ambitious weapons programs was underway. The foundries worked relentlessly. Massive furnaces glowed day and night. Molten bronze poured into enormous molds, carefully prepared for the gigantic cannon. The project demanded extraordinary precision. Any flaw could cause the weapon to explode during firing, killing its own crew. Weeks passed. Then months. Finally, the impossible stood completed. The largest bombard the world had ever seen. Its barrel measured several meters in length. Its walls were astonishingly thick. The stone balls it fired weighed hundreds of kilograms, far larger than anything previous siege engines had launched. Witnesses struggled to comprehend its scale. It looked less like a weapon and more like a monument. Transporting it presented another enormous challenge. The cannon proved so heavy that dozens of oxen were required simply to move it. Hundreds of laborers reinforced roads, repaired bridges, and cleared obstacles along the route toward Constantinople. Progress remained painfully slow. Sometimes, the giant bombard advanced only a few kilometers in an entire day. Yet Mehmed refused to rush. He understood that once the cannon reached the battlefield, history itself might change. Meanwhile, preparations continued across the Ottoman Empire. Blacksmiths forged thousands of swords, spears, arrowheads, and armor pieces. Carpenters assembled siege towers, wagons, and supply carts. Engineers collected timber for bridges and fortifications. Storehouses filled with grain, dried meat, oil, and other provisions capable of feeding an enormous army for months. Unlike many medieval campaigns that depended upon speed, Mehmed planned for endurance. If Constantinople refused to surrender quickly, he intended to remain until victory became inevitable. His army reflected the growing strength of the Ottoman state. Professional janissaries formed its disciplined core. Recruited through the Devshirme system and trained from childhood, these elite soldiers combined strict discipline with remarkable battlefield skill. Loyalty belonged not to local nobles or tribal chiefs, but directly to the Sultan himself. They represented one of the most effective standing armies anywhere in the world. Alongside them marched experienced cavalry, provincial infantry, engineers, sailors, and irregular warriors drawn from across Ottoman territory. The army that gathered outside Constantinople would number tens of thousands. Some contemporary sources claimed even higher figures, though historians continued debating the exact total. Regardless of the precise number, one fact remains clear. The defenders were vastly outnumbered. Inside Constantinople, Emperor Constantine XI refused to surrender to fear. Instead, he concentrated every available resource on strengthening the city's defenses. Damaged sections of the walls were repaired, moats were cleaned, food supplies were carefully rationed, weapons were distributed to citizens willing to fight. The emperor understood that every able-bodied defender mattered. Professional soldiers alone could never hold such an enormous defensive line. Ordinary craftsmen, merchants, monks, laborers, even elderly veterans returned to positions along the walls. Every citizen understood what defeat might mean. The emperor also appealed desperately to Christian Europe, Letters traveled westward requesting military assistance. Messengers crossed dangerous roads carrying urgent pleas. Constantine reminded European rulers that Constantinople protected not only Byzantium, but the entire Christian world. If the city fell, Ottoman expansion into southeastern Europe would become dramatically easier. Some responded with sympathy. Others offered promises. Very few offered armies. Political rivalries continued dividing European kingdoms. Many rulers remained occupied by their own wars. Some distrusted Byzantium after centuries of religious disagreements between Eastern Orthodoxy and Western Catholicism. Others simply underestimated the danger. Help arrived only in small numbers. Among the most important reinforcements came a determined Genoese commander named Giovanni Giustiniani. He brought several hundred experienced professional soldiers skilled in siege warfare. Although few in number, they possessed invaluable experience defending fortified cities. Constantine placed enormous trust in them. Giustiniani would command some of the most dangerous sections of the walls during the coming siege. It was a wise decision. Every experienced defender could make the difference between survival and catastrophe. As winter faded into spring, tension spread throughout Constantinople. People prayed inside ancient churches, families stored food, blacksmiths repaired armor until late into the night. Lookouts scanned the horizon daily. Everyone knew the moment was approaching. Then, one morning, distant clouds of dust appeared beyond the western hills. Soon afterward came banners, thousands upon thousands of banners. Columns of infantry stretched across the countryside. Cavalry units followed behind them. Supply wagons rolled endlessly toward the city. Then came the giant cannon. Even from the walls, its size astonished those who watched it approach. Few had ever imagined such a weapon could exist. When the Ottoman army finally completed its deployment, Constantinople found itself surrounded by one of the greatest military forces the medieval world had ever assembled. On one side stood the last emperor of Rome. On the other stood a 21-year-old sultan determined to create a new empire. Neither man intended to retreat. The greatest siege in medieval history was about to begin. On the morning of April 6, 1453 the silence outside Constantinople finally came to an end. For days, Ottoman soldiers had been digging trenches, positioning siege engines and carefully arranging artillery along the western walls. From the towers of Constantinople, the defenders watched every movement. They knew the attack was coming. The only uncertainty was when. Then, just after sunrise, the order was given. Across the Ottoman lines, enormous cannons roared to life. The sound was unlike anything the defenders had ever experienced. It echoed across the Bosporus, rolled through the streets of the city, and shook buildings far from the walls themselves. Windows rattled. Church bells trembled. Birds scattered into the sky. Moments later, the first gigantic stone projectile struck the Theodosian Walls. For centuries, those walls had resisted catapults, battering rams, and siege towers. Now they faced a weapon built for an entirely different age. Massive sections of stone cracked under the impact. Dust filled the air as fragments crashed to the ground. Although the walls remained standing, everyone understood that something had changed. For the first time in their long history, the walls could be broken from a distance. Yet the giant bombards possessed serious limitations. After every shot, the barrels became dangerously hot. Reloading required enormous effort. Crews carefully cleaned the weapons before loading another massive stone ball into place. Sometimes hours passed between shots. The defenders immediately took advantage of this weakness. As soon as darkness fell each evening, engineers, laborers, soldiers, and ordinary citizens rushed toward damaged sections of the walls. Under the light of torches, they carried stones, timber, earth, and rubble, repairing breaches almost as quickly as the Ottoman artillery created them. By dawn, many damaged sections appeared ready to withstand another day of bombardment. The siege quickly became a battle of endurance. The Ottomans destroyed. The Byzantines rebuilt. Every sunrise brought fresh destruction. Every sunset brought desperate repairs. Meanwhile, maimed eye carefully observed every result. Unlike many rulers who remained safely behind their armies, the young sultan frequently inspected the front lines himself. He questioned engineers, spoke with commanders, and personally evaluated weak points in the defenses. He refused to allow frustration to replace patience. He believed time favored him. Inside the city, Emperor Constantine XI displayed similar determination. Each day he rode along the walls, encouraging exhausted defenders and inspecting damaged fortifications. His presence became a powerful source of confidence. The emperor understood that leadership during a siege meant being seen. If the defenders believed their ruler remained calm, they would continue fighting. Among the most respected men on the walls was Giovanni Giustiniani. The experienced Genoese commander organized defensive positions with remarkable discipline. Archers, crossbowmen, and artillery crews worked together to repel repeated Ottoman attacks. Whenever a section of wall suffered heavy damage, Giustiniani ensured reinforcements arrived before panic could spread. His professionalism earned the admiration of both Byzantine soldiers and foreign volunteers. Despite the overwhelming size of the Ottoman army, morale inside the city remained surprisingly strong. The defenders still trusted their greatest advantage, the walls. But Mehmed had no intention of relying solely on artillery. He wanted to isolate Constantinople completely. That required control of the sea. The city's greatest natural harbor, the Golden Horn, remained protected by one extraordinary defense, a massive iron chain. One end of the chain was anchored near Constantinople. The other stretched across the entrance of the harbor to the district of Galata. Supported by floating logs and wooden platforms, it formed an almost impenetrable barrier. Enemy warships attempting to enter would collide directly with its heavy iron links. For generations, this ingenious defense had protected Constantinople's vulnerable northern waterfront. The Ottoman navy quickly discovered why it had earned such a reputation. Several attempts to force entry failed. The harbor remained securely closed. As long as Byzantine and Allied ships controlled the Golden Horn, supplies and communication inside the city remained possible. It was one obstacle Mehmed could not simply bombard into submission. Then another dramatic moment unfolded. A small Christian relief fleet approached Constantinople carrying desperately needed supplies. The Ottoman navy sailed out to intercept it. Thousands gathered along the shoreline to watch. The battle became one of the most remarkable naval engagements of the siege. Although heavily outnumbered, the larger Christian ships fought with extraordinary skill. Their greater height allowed defenders to fire down upon Ottoman vessels attempting to board them. Hour after hour, the struggle continued. Finally, using favorable winds, the relief ships broke through the Ottoman blockade and successfully entered the Golden Horn. Cheers erupted from Constantinople's walls. Citizens celebrated wildly. For the defenders, it felt like proof that God still protected the city. For Mehmed, it was a humiliating setback. According to several contemporary accounts, the furious sultan rode his horse into the shallow waters near the shoreline, shouting orders at his commanders as he watched the enemy escape beyond the protective chain. Failure was unacceptable. If the harbor could not be entered, perhaps it could be reached another way. Soon afterward, Mehmed gathered his advisors and engineers. The challenge seemed impossible. North of the Golden Horn rose steep hills covered with forests and rough terrain. No fleet had ever crossed them. Ships belonged in water, not on land. But impossible ideas often create extraordinary victories. The Ottoman engineers began preparing an operation unlike anything attempted before. Workers cut thousands of logs, carpenters shaped wooden rollers, roads were strengthened. Animal fat and oil were spread across the timber to reduce friction. Everything had to remain secret. Then, under cover of darkness, the operation began. One by one, Ottoman ships were pulled from the Bosporus onto the specially prepared route. Teams of oxen and hundreds of men hauled them slowly uphill. The process demanded incredible coordination. A single mistake could destroy an entire vessel. Yet through determination and careful planning, the impossible gradually became reality. As dawn approached, the final ships descended toward the waters of the Golden Horn. The following morning, the people of Constantinople awoke expecting another ordinary day of siege. Instead, they witnessed something that left many speechless. Ottoman warships floated inside the Golden Horn, behind the chain, behind the defenses they had trusted for centuries. The impossible had happened. The harbor was no longer safe. For the first time since the siege had begun, panic spread through sections of the city. The defenders now faced attacks from multiple directions. Resources had to be divided. More walls required protection. More soldiers had to be repositioned. Mehmed had not broken the city's defenses. He had outsmarted them. And as the weeks passed, both sides understood a terrifying truth. The siege was entering its most dangerous phase. One final assault was approaching. A battle that would decide not only the fate of Constantinople, but the fate of the Roman Empire itself.